Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Ashish, you might just have turned off the speaker button on the top left corner.
I know. I have tried to tell ma'am that ma'am is trying to.
You are mute.
तुमको वीडियो चाहिए क्या अभी?
हाँ, वीडियो आ रहा है पर आवाज नहीं आ रही है।
ये कौन है?
ये वो लड़की है जूम मीटिंग में, आवाज नहीं आ रही पर।
आपको आवाज आएगी, मे बी यू आर म्यूट।
अब आएगी।
यहाँ पे ये बोल रहे ना योर थिंग म्यूटेड, उसको अनम्यूट कैसे करें?
देखो अब आएगी क्या?
क्या किए?
वो वहाँ पे स्पीकर बंद। स्पीकर बंद।
कौन सा? कहाँ पर? नहीं बैठ के सुनो। हेलो।
Hello, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear. Can you hear me?
Yes,
I can hear you, Mrs. Mohta. I think the rest of them are yet to speak because they are waiting for one of the judges to join, and then we keep on. आप लोग बैठिए ना, हम लोग बस अभी शुरू कर रहे हैं.
Sorry?
We are starting in a moment, so as soon as the judge joins, so we can hear you and you can hear us. We are all set.
Okay, and I'll unmute myself.
Yes, if you want to, then we won't be able to hear you. Yes, that would be nice.
Yeah.
Sir has joined. Pradeep
ma'am,
Gupta
sir is here.
Good afternoon to everyone present here. Welcome back. We are in this finals of Manthan, where we have two schools who have qualified for this round, Birla Vidya Niketan and the Heritage School. I will quickly announce the speakers for stage 1 and stage 2 from both the schools. From Birla Vidya Niketan, Arman Mathur will be opening the debate for us, followed by Navan Chauhan and followed by Utkarsh Mittal. From the Heritage School, we have Neil Mukherjee opening the debate for us, followed by Snigdha Adhikari, followed by Ayush Gupta. Stage 2, which will be a turncoat round, we have Arman Mathur representing Birla Vidya Niketan and Snigdha Adhikari representing the Heritage School. I would now like to acknowledge the presence of our guest of honor and our mentor, Ma'am Mohta, our principal, Ma'am, respected moderator, Ma'am Swati Gautam, and our judges. Thank you for joining in. Swati, Ma'am, over to you.
Would you like to introduce your judges once again, now that your mentors are here? And would you also like to introduce me once again? Take time, pull out your notes data.
Yes, ma'am. Harshita, over to you. You can go ahead and introduce the judges.
Thank you, girls. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. So our judges for this event is Mr. Pradeep Gupta, who is one of the best known writers for business and economics. He has been the resident editor of Business Standard for 10 years. And in addition to that, he is also one of the founder trustees of the Calcutta Debating Circle. Thank you, sir, for joining us. We're glad to have you here. Moving on to our second judge, Mr. Shahid Chakraborty, who is an advocate of the Calcutta High Court, practicing mainly civil and constitutional matters. He is also the Chamber Junior of the former Advocate General of West Bengal. Apart from excelling in the field of law, he is also an avid quizzer and debater. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. We're glad to have you here. Now, Akanksha will be introducing Ma'am Moderator. Over to you, Akanksha.
Thank you, Harshita. A woman is made by her beliefs. As she believes, so she is. Swati Gautam. Ms. Swati Gautam will be our moderator for the course of 2 days. An entrepreneur for 30 years, ma'am is the founder of India's only brand of fitted undergarments for women. Alongside that, ma'am holds a master's in abroad, casting from the University of Sheffield. She has been a teacher journalism and marketing communication to graduate and postgraduate students at St. Xavier's College, Calcutta. A contributor at newspaper and portals, ma'am is also a columnist with The Telegraph. She is a trustee of the Calcutta Debating Circle and loves debating in English and Hindi. It is great to have you here, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Akanksha. Would you ask the two teams to, do we need their introductions or is it okay? We're fine without you've introduced them, right?
Yes, ma'am, I have.
Thank you very much, Akanksha, Harshita, the Mahadevi Birla World Academy, Mrs. Mota, Mrs. Shah, and Mrs. Sen. We are now at the finals of Manthan. So finally, there's been a lot of churning, a lot of superb, excellent debating over the past 2 days. It couldn't have got any better than this. And now that we have two teams in the finals, one from Calcutta and one from outside Calcutta, this too is a very, very balanced final round. The final round, all three rounds, the prelims, the semis, and the finals have had different formats, which has been very refreshing for all participants, for the judges as well as for myself. So thank you, girls, for having designed it thus. The finals are being held in 2 stages. The format has changed yet again to a parliamentary format of debating, where one of the schools is proposing the motion, which is that this house believes that Satyamev Jayate sounds hollow in contemporary India. And the other school has chosen to oppose it. So this was not thrust upon them. Instead, it was a choice made by the two teams facing off in the finals. BVN, Birla Vidya Niketan, chose to propose the motion. Heritage School chose to oppose the motion. So that was done in all unanimity. Thank you, both teams. The motion was handed over to them about an hour and a half from the finals. There will be a stage 2 also, which I'm coming to in a moment. As of now, correct me if I'm wrong, Akanksha and Harshita, all the members of team proposition and opposition will speak in the order of principal speaker, second speaker, and third speaker. Yes. Akanksha, will you read out their time frames? How much time do they get?
Yes, ma'am. So the principal speaker from each school gets a time period of 3 minutes and 30 seconds. The deputy speaker gets a time period of 2 minutes and 30 seconds, whereas the whip speaker gets a time period of 1 minute and 30 seconds. That's the total.
There we are. Right. Each speaker will face one question from their opposing team. Each member of the debating teams will have to ask a question. So judges, please note that all speakers will be marked on the questions they asked and the answers they give. I will hopefully give you a moment to shift from the speaker who is speaking to the question seeker so you know who to mark conveniently. I repeat, it is imperative for each speaker to ask a question. So team proposition will, by turns they choose themselves, ask a question each of team opposition after the respective speeches and vice versa. Is there any question that the debaters have at this moment? Any concern? I think we are fine. So there we go. Satyameva Jayate. Does it sound? Oh, there is a question. Neil Mukherjee, yes? Come up on the screen. Pull him up, please.
Yes, thank you for giving this opportunity. But I would like to ask, is there going to be the bell again? to indicate how much time we have left?
Yes,
Thank you.
Absolutely. We will have, I'm sure we have the bell, right, Harshita?
Yes, ma'am, we do have the bell ready.
Yes, we haven't lost the bell as yet. We knew the finals were coming to us. So there we are. So before much ado, let's start the finals of Manthan. May there be a lot of Manthan, a lot of churning, and may we try and discover the truth about Satyamev Jayate. I now invite to propose the motion the chief speaker from Birla Vidyaniketan, Arman Mathur.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I guess Arman Mathur has a question.
Oh, where is he? Right, Arman, come on, shoot.
I just had one little question. Could you clarify whether there'll be all the three speakers are required to ask a question? Is it supposed to be after each individual speech, like a person A gives a speech, and then all the three speakers have to ask one question each?
Wait, hang on a sec. No, Arman, after you finish your speech now, either one of the three from Heritage School will ask you a question. Whoever has asked is over and done with. When your second speaker speaks, anyone of the remaining two speakers on the other side will ask a question, thereby giving the judges a very clear idea of each person's question speaking and answering ability. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Right? So I repeat, each speaker faces only one question after their speech, but there will be no repeat as far as the question seeker is concerned. The question seeker won't be repeated. Okay? Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you ready to go, Arman?
Yes, ma'am.
So all the best to your team, Birla Vidyaniketan, proposing the motion. This house believes that Satyamev Jayate sounds hollow in contemporary India. Over to you, Arman.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I will be proposing the motion on behalf of Birla Vidyaniketan, and I'm honored to be here. And let me start by talking about what Satyamev Jayate really is. Satyamev Jayate, roughly translated, means the truth shall prevail. Now, we are living in what can be called, and in fact, we've been living in it for centuries, in what can be called a post-truth world. Now, many of you might have heard of this very intellectual thinker whose name is Antonio Gramsci. Now, he had said around 100 years back, if the ruling elites control the instruments of cultural communication, then the version of truth circulated by them attains hegemony. That was his concept of hegemony. And I sometimes feel that the current ruling establishment has read a lot of Gramsci. And let's start by talking about our institutions. Our institutions are the ones who are supposed to uphold the satya or the truth. And our institutions at this point of time are being systematically suppressed. Let's start with the fourth pillar of democracy, the media. Now, there is multitudes to speak about on the media. You might remember a gentleman with the bow tie called Karan Thapar, who took a very, very infamous interview a few years back, which has become infamous for the pure reason that the interview was one where the current prime minister walked out, and he's sort of been out of a job these days. I wonder why. You might also have heard of this journalist called Barkha Dutt. She isn't seen on TV anymore. She was also one who I used to watch a lot on television. And what we are seeing today is not traditional censorship in the Doordarshan variant of censorship, which we used to see during the emergency, but this is a very insidious and manipulative variant of censorship. This is when you're not being told directly that your content is going to be censored, but you yourself are going to be censored. The journalists who are speaking against the establishment are being absolutely removed. Their shows are being removed off TV screens. They're not coming on news channels. And in political science literature, there's a very familiar term called democratic barbarism. Very interesting term. And it is often sustained by what is referred to as judicial barbarism. So now I come to the judiciary. And the term barbarism has several components. The first is the overwhelming appearance of arbitrariness in decision making. The application of law now becomes so dependent on the arbitrary whims of individual judges that the rule of law or constitutional terms no longer have any meaning. The law of contempt has become a joke. Sudha Bharadwaj, thinkers like Anand Teltumde, they are being denied bail. Umar Khalid, a college student, he was given a minor relief in being allowed to step outside his cell. Wow. But the state of so many young anti-CAA student protesters remains uncertain. an 80 years old social activist who's devoted his life to the marginalized. He is being held under the UAPA and he was denied a straw. His lawyer said his hands tremble. He has Parkinson's disease. He cannot hold a cup. Could you at least give us his sipper and straw? And the court says, we'll hear you 20 days later. Is this the version of truth which is about to prevail in our country? And this may seem like a graceless exaggeration, but when you see creeping hues of a Weimar judiciary, grace is no option for ordinary citizens. Parliament has no question asked. Jawaharlal Nehru in 1962, when the troops were fighting on the border, held a parliament session to criticize his own government. That is the democratic ethos, the plural and egalitarian character of India, which is often known very cliche. It's known in a very cliche term called the idea of India. The idea of India requires its institutions to prevail for it to sustain with the dignity with which it was set up. Thank you.
Thank you, Arman. That was a very, very promising, clear, nice start. Do we have a question? We have to have a question for him from team opposition. Who is it who asks the question? Please raise your hand in the chat box.
Neil Mukherjee has raised his hand.
Yes, Neil, your question to Arman. Your question seeking time remains limited to 30 seconds, Neil. Short, pithy question, please.
Arman, thank you for your speech. But when you say that the media is censoring all information from different points of view, are you saying that every single media institution is doing that, and that every single government member is aiming to censor other viewpoints?
May I answer, ma'am?
1 second. Judges, kindly note that you have to mark Neil on the question that he has asked now. Thank you very much. Arman, you may answer now.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Now, when I spoke of the term censorship with reference to the media in my speech, I did not, and I had clarified this very categorically, I did not mean censorship in the very true sense of the word. Like Doordarshan channels earlier, they used to show what the government wanted them to show because they were regulated by the government. But today, channels do not, it's not that sort of censorship. The censorship which I'm talking about is, it's a very backdoor kind of a thing. You are removed very insidiously and in a very manipulative sort of a way. Your career is ended. I gave an example of Karan Thapar. You cannot see him anywhere on television these days. He's doing digital media, but he doesn't have as much of a reach just because of the fact that the spokespersons of the ruling party, the party in power, said that we'll not come to your shows. And how can a journalist sustain his show if the people of the ruling party are not willing to come and debate with him? That is the very insidious and manipulative variant of censorship which I was referring to. Hope that answers your question.
Okay.
Thank you, Arman. Thank you very much. And to Neil too. Remember to address each other by your first names and not by sirs and ma'ams. Right. So the principal speaker for the opposition from the Heritage School will open the debate for team opposition. Neil Mukherjee. The floor is yours.
Yeah. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak. So as to begin now, Satyamev Vijayate is not limited to the values of a constitution or any other institution, or the problems of the current government. It is far bigger than that. It is mentioned everywhere in India. Our philosophical text in the Mundaka Upanishad, our Veda, and our currency and our national emblem. It's inscribed in the psyche of every Indian. It is a way of life. But why do we do so? Why do we put it in our emblem? Because the truth alone triumphs is not a report card based on our constitutional freedom or censorship. In the face of an authoritarian government, we are not blind to problems the prop is talking about. Well, about these faults of the government, you cannot prove these are problems of India forever. India has dealt with problems like this before, and we have fought them in the past. Example is Indira Gandhi passed bills on emergency and bank nationalization. Her cabinet ministers, the people closest to her, did not know of these bills until they were passed. India fought this government, and we let the truth triumph and defy these laws. India is not facing the problems for the first time because of the current government. We have always been facing this, but we fought against it, and India regained its values when they lost it. Satyamev Vijayate especially stood the real test against the British colonial rule. If you can stand up against the British in those times, who's to say it cannot remain strong today? You might be disillusioned by what is going on in this country, but Satyamev Vijayate is everywhere. Satyamev Vijayate is in the psyche of all Indians. Look beyond in the sense of constitutional liberties. or media. Satyamay Vijayate was a clarion called by the freedom fighters like Pandit Mohan and A.R. Raman. It's a way of life. We as Heritage are proud to oppose this motion today because we are opposing the pessimistic viewpoints that portray India to be living in a lie. Allowing them to win is to admit that India has no longer any hope. If the proposition wins, India is losing today. You're giving up all hope in the country, calling it hollow as it is in the search of truth. Satyamay Vijayate is bigger than what the proposition portrays. It is a divine way of life and enlightenment that tells Indians how to live their best life. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you so much. A question from side proposition for Neil?
Any one of the participants can raise their hand.
Yes, you have to ask a question. From Birla Vidyaniketan, who is to ask a question of Neil, please?
Arman Mathur from
Arman,
Birla Vidyaniketan.
there you go.
Ma'am, Neil has pointed out that Satyamev Jayate is a way of life. It is ingrained in the psyche of all Indians. Well, that is all very good philosophical talk, Neil. But you tell me, what is the practical realm of Satyamev Jayate? I've talked about institutions being suppressed. Institutions are supposed to uphold the honor of truth. How do you give me a practical argument on how it is ingrained in our psyche, in a practical sense, in our day-to-day life? Tell me, how does Satyamev Jayate work? I would love to know.
Yeah.
Thank you, Arman. Neil.
Yeah. So a practical way in which we have practiced Satyamay Vijayate is, one, the example with the British colonial rule. We united and we fought an oppressive government and we gained our own freedom. Secondly, it's also the Indira Gandhi examples I mentioned before with the nationalization of the banks and the emergency laws that were passed. Those were not good for us. We fought them, and we as Indians had united to fight what we believed was for our own good. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. Judges, please note that Arman has asked his question and you needed him to mark on his question. You needed to mark him on his question. So Arman and Neil are not going to be asking any more questions of any other speaker. Thank you so much, Arman and Neil, for opening the debate for us. Both of you have made your points and your stance very clear. Whilst Arman believes that a lie travels halfway around the world before the truth has had a chance to put its pants on, Neil believes that no, the truth prevails in India even today, however naked it may be. On to our second speakers, the deputy speakers, please. Navan Chauhan from Birla Vidyaniketan, team proposition.
Thank you. As for talking about truth always prevailing, while the judiciary is being used as an effective tool by one Modi, it is also ineffective in bringing the other Modi back. The current face of Gujarat tourism during the 1984 riots on live television said, "Blood for blood," not once, but twice. Has that truth been forgotten? In all its glory, the parliament has removed the question hour session and are passing bills as quickly as a MUNR raising a point of personal privilege. Neil reminded us how we've always fought these problems. And I believe this is exactly what I'm saying. In a world where the products are being sold on the nostalgia factor, contemporary Satyamay Jayate is like a retired amateur footballer reminiscing their glory days of playing in rookie leagues. Now, why did I compare Satyamay Jayate with the rookie footy league? Well, because was it ever not hollow? Why would it ever be in a professional league if it never held true? How long does it take for the truth to prevail? 500 years, 10 years, 20 years, or when the universe has collapsed? When generations upon generations have already been massacred? We also saw this with the partition of Bengal and the two-nation theory. Did people not have connections with the people on the other side? Were their relationships not true? Thus, talking about Satyamay Jayate in contemporary India is the same as asking since the dawn of time. The same Upanishads which have the line, "Truth always prevails," as Neil reminded us, also have the line, "Dreams are real as long as they last." Can we say more of life? In the 21st century, wherein we believe in parallel universes, what is the truth? What is the need of a single universal truth? There is your truth and there is my truth, but there is no universal truth. Thank you.
Navan, once again, you surprised me. I did not expect the concept of universal truths to be pulled up here. Really appreciate this, really. Yes. So a question from team opposition for Navan Chauhan.
Snigdha Adhikari has a question.
Snigdha, off you go, please.
Okay, so you, Navan has talked about like the fact that the governments are passing bills. So there has in the Indira Gandhi movement in her time, bills were passed without anyone's acknowledgement. They were passed because of her. So how do you? So and we've always come back from that. So how do you justify that right now? Because bringing it up right now, we would always come back from it regardless. It's nothing new that we're seeing.
Okay. So thank you, Snigdha, for the question. Two wrongs don't make one right. So I was just pointing out, like Neil said, even before they were doing that, and even now they are doing that. So that doesn't mean they are. That does not mean that what they are doing is right. I just pointed out that the current government is also doing that. That does not take away from the point that the previous government did that. So I don't know how else I'm supposed to answer the question. I think before the perfect answer is two wrongs don't make one right.
Navan, in the strategy of debating, you could simply have stopped at the sentence that you started with and you ended with. That's it. The impact would have been more. You absolutely nailed it with your answer. Judges, please also note that Snigdha asked her question and she has to be marked on her question, please. I'm doing this repetitively so as to help you not miss the point. Navan, very well done. Thank you very much. And yes, the Deputy Speaker from the Heritage School, bright young Snigdha Adhikari. The floor is yours to oppose the motion and to tell us why Satyamev Jayate does not sound hollow. Thank you, Snigdha.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. I'm the Deputy Speaker and we're opposing the motion. So to address Arman's point of media suppression and censorship, I'm sure we've all heard about Ravish Kumar, who uses the YouTube as a platform to vocalize about his political opinions. Now, we aren't saying that suppression isn't there. We aren't saying that censorship isn't there. But what the concept of the motion is beyond a lot of things. Proposition is actually narrowing down the meaning of Satyamev Jayate, as my first speaker has already mentioned. We as a nation have Satyamev Jayate ingrained in our psyche. We can't overlook the fact that the overall literacy rate of India stood at 77.7% in 2018. Delhi has shown an impressive improvement in its literacy rate, standing at second place. Delhi has a literacy rate of 88.7%, which has improved highly over the past years. The overall sex ratio at birth saw an improvement by 3 points per thousand in 2018. And the concept of Satyamev Jayate has shown time and again the rise of youth in order to fight for equity. Now, the previous speakers were talking about how the youth are being suppressed, how the media is being suppressed. Well, Satyamev Jayate also points about, it also brings the youth together to fight for it. They have a very one-sided story. But can you deny the fact that the youth's unity during the CAA protests? The Shaheen Bagh has become a symbol of resistance, a pan-India template which had been replicated in other parts of the country. It has emerged as a platform of freedom of expression for dissenting voices to air their grievances and express solidarity. The locality came into prominence due to the presence of a large number of women protesters of various age groups. In fact, the movement is led by a Muslim woman who are being supported by women from other communities as well. The primary agenda was clearly to pressurize the government to roll back the black law. So you can't really say there's a unity there, because clearly, even if there are instances that you're referring to, that is not the only side of the story. As you said, that there are two sides of the coin. Now, KK Shailaja in Kerala has helped vastly in developing its health infrastructure. Kerala is almost 20% of India's healthcare centers. She already has the resources with the good leadership skills and has instrumentating the curve of the COVID-19 curve. And she, as a 63-year-old minister, is known as the coronavirus slayer and rock star. And we have such examples in our country. So saying that there is no truth now and the victory of proposition right now, today, is a near death of India's capability and the murder of truth in its very essence. So thank you, again, Deputy Speaker, and we oppose the motion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Snigdha. You really shown so well. So well. Wonderfully done. Excellent. So who's to ask her a question, please? Team Birla Vidyaniketan?
Birla Vidyaniketan, anyone?
Apart from no, Arman can't. Arman has asked the question. So it is either Navan or Utkarsh.
Utkarsh is raising his hand. Utkarsh, you can go
There
ahead.
you go.
So my question is that how does just increase in literacy rate or sex ratio support the motto of Satyamev Jayate? All the protests you have mentioned.
That's it. Stop at your question. That's a nice question. Stop. Know when to stop. Brilliant question. Come on, Snigdha, answer.
Right. Satyameva Jayate, in its very precedence, the meaning of it is truth will triumph. Right? Now, you're bringing in instances where people are being, there's corruption and everything. But we're saying that in India right now, there is still goodness there. There's still truth there. Literacy rate is increasing. We're showing the positives of it. And Satyameva is a bigger concept, and it doesn't just rely on the very narrowed down definition that your team has shown us. It directly affects every single person of the country. And when everyone is thriving right now, then why shouldn't we have Satyameva Jayate? And it's clearly not hollow.
Thank you, Snigdha. Snigdha pointed out very clearly the two sides to every coin and exposed us to the other side of how the motion can be reinterpreted. Very well done, both Navan and Snigdha in this second round. In the second set of speaking, let's say. We move on to the third speaker from Birla Vidyaniketan, the third speaker to propose the motion. After a wonderful question, here we have Utkarsh Mittal. Utkarsh.
So this house believes that Satyamev Jayate sounds hollow in contemporary India. Do all present here realize that we have come to this point that today we have to sort to discuss the failure of the national motto adopted by our founding fathers. The national motto, which is inscribed at the base of the lion of capital of India, so that it resonates with every Indian, is today the topic of contention. As Navan expressed, was Satyamev Jayate ever not hollow? Our nation has been built on the defiance of Satyamev Jayate, on the two-nation theory. Our nation marked the starting of the cavity, which has now completely hollowed the concept of Satyamev Jayate. The motto of Satyamev Jayate was formed with the intent of strengthening the four pillars of our democracy and providing the guiding path of a nation. But today, these four pillars are faltering. And instead of truth prevailing, truth is being suppressed and the very pillars turning hollow. Why does the judiciary, which has been constructed to pave a path, as Navan said, be the judiciary or as Navan said, be the judiciary or institutions, everything is being molded to suit the elite. When we say that truth is prevailing, alternate truths, there are alternate truths. How to decide that whose truth should prevail? Why is there always a conflict between different truths? Why can't there be a unanimous world? Just ending. If we see the whole world as at a cosmic level, if we believe that the whole world in a whole format, we will see that the whole world is a wasteland. We are the hollow men, as said by T.S. Eliot. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Utkarsh. You did exceed your time a wee bit, but then you brought in very new concepts. I think Ayush Gupta will now ask you a question, Utkarsh.
Yes.
Right. So Utkarsh, you mentioned how the four pillars of democracy are faltering, right? And you mentioned the past and how it's different since then. So do you think that, take one of the pillars, media. So do you think that the outreach of media and its influence has reduced since the 1940s, 1950s, since independence?
No. Media still stands powerful. Media still asserts its presence, but the nature of the presence has definitely changed. The media in the past used to bring up points that were relevant or that were impactful. But now what has happened is that media is only, it's all about the various it's all about sold media. It's basically how we have corrupted media, how the politicians have taken over the fourth pillar. We are looking at the plagiarism of the fourth pillar with politics.
Thank you, Utkarsh. Thank you so much. Judges, Ayush too has asked his third question. Well, before we move on to the last speaker of this stage in the finals, let me just recap what Utkarsh and his team have been trying to say, that the media has been largely or completely subjugated as an institution. Team opposition is trying to say that no, there are other positives that we can look at. From team opposition, to bring up the rear is Ayush Gupta from the Heritage School. Ayush.
Right. So the side proposition is clearly disillusioned by all of the happenings of our country. And what they're trying to portray is that Satyamev Jayate is a failed political concept that is facing newly founded backlash by a right-wing government. Now, understand that Satyamev Jayate is not simply limited to institutional failures or or a government's failures, right? Satyamev Jayate is a spiritual and transcendental truth that is manifested in the hearts and actions of Indians with their actions against injustice in the country, by students, by teachers, no matter how young. Take a look at the Delhi protests against CAA and NRC. Now, it's not just Satyamev Jayate is not just a hollow statement used to determine whether constitutional liberties and ideas are being upheld. It's a clarion call that was even used by Amir Khan and A.R. Rahman with their uproar and desire for truth, for example. It's more subliminal than that. And who else quoted Satyamev Jayate? It was used by Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya during the fight for freedom 200 years ago. That was incomparably more difficult than a fight for democracy. Proposition believes the actions of the current government shatters our founding principles. Firstly, the state of India is different than the government of India, firstly. And secondly, I would like to convey to the House that India has ousted governments in the past, like the Indira government. But the constitutional problems of India today aren't going to last forever. There's no proof of that. Navan claims that Satyamev Jayate was always a hollow concept. Well, then with that logic, you can claim that every single democracy in the world has no hope for the future. Sure, Navan, two wrongs don't form a right. One angry crowd. It forms student-led protests. Students that understand and retain the meaning of Satyamev Jayate. I'm not willing to give up all the hope in the country, calling it hollow in its search for the future and the truth. As an Indian above everything else, I am proud to
wind up, Ayush. Try and wind up. Ayush, try and wind up, please. Try and wind up. One last sentence. Take your last sentence. You muted yourself. Yeah. You muted yourself again. Yes, one last sentence.
Sure. So I'll just repeat my last statement. I'm not willing to give up all hope in the country, calling it hollow in the search of its future and its truth. As an Indian above everything else, above a school student, above a heritage, I'm proud to oppose this motion today. And if the pessimist side of our proposition wins, India loses today. The future of India loses today.
Extremely well summarized, Ayush. Extremely well done. Do not mute yourself. You have a question to answer.
Yes. Thank you, Neil. As you and your fellow teammates have reminded us again and again about the Indira government, I wanted to ask you the contemporary situation. America's institutes have a better chance to repair about what Trump has done, whereas India after Modi would be different. Can you comment on this?
Sorry, can you repeat your question?
Yeah. So I was just saying, you've been talking about in all three of your speeches about the Indira government. I wanted to talk more about the present situation, the contemporary situation. So America's institutions have a better chance of repair after what the current Trump government has done. But India's situation would be a bit different. Can you comment on this?
Did you understand the question, Ayush?
Yeah. So you're talking about repairing India, right? Repairing. So that is a very subjective term, firstly. So sure, let's take the argument that we are repairing India. Clearly, it's going to improve from a current situation, right? Proposition argument states that India is deteriorating. There's the concept of Satyamev Jayate is hollow. Now, again, you're saying that we're repairing India, right? We're on the path of repairing India after this government's regime. So I only believe that Satyamev Jayate is going to be upheld, if not in the institutions, then it's going to be upheld in the hearts of the Indians at least.
Thank you.
So team opposition firmly believes that Satya pareshan ho sakta hai par parajit nahi. And team proposition believes कि झूठ सारी दुनिया में घूम आ रहा है और बेचारा सच एक कोने में रो रहा है. Right? That brings us to the end of round 1. We now move ahead to round 2, where one speaker from each of the 2 schools will face off in what is called a turncoat debate. From Birla Vidyaniketan, Arman Mathur will face off against Snigdha Mukherjee from the Heritage School. In a turncoat debate, both speakers will first speak for the motion a minute and a half. Am I right, Akanksha?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
A minute and a half for the motion, and then they themselves, when the bell will go, a really nice, long, loud bell, Harshita, they need to change immediately into opposing the motion. The motion for the turncoat debate was expected to bring some fun, yet be a little realistic even now. Given that we have a young man facing off with a young lady, the motion for the turncoat debate is that, look at that, I said the motion and now I can't find it. Right, so let me just say it off the top of my head that in today's India, it is better to be born a boy than a girl, right? I repeat the motion. It is better to be born a boy than a girl in today's India. Arman Mathur, you go first.
Thank you, ma'am.
I repeat, just a second. 1.5 minutes when you say it's great to be a guy. And the other 1.5 minutes, you say when it's great to be a girl, right? That's what you're expected to do.
Yes.
Arman, your time starts now.
Thank you, ma'am, for introducing the motion. Good morning, everyone. I will first be proposing the motion. Now, it is an inevitable truth that we do live in a largely patriarchal society. And of course, I want to be a boy. I can walk out at night with less fear of being teased or molested because I'm a boy, I have muscles and I have six-pack abs. Second, it's a fact that if I'm a boy, I can get away with a lot of things which girls can't. I can get more opportunities and I'm not expected to give something in return. Whenever I try new things, it isn't questioned, but it is considered allegorical of my manliness. Society isn't a burden on my forehead. I don't have to think what society will think of me. And if I'm asked, I can always say, men will be men. It's okay. It works. And the fact is that when I wear a suit and a tie and I come out all neatly dressed in a business meeting, I'll be called a smart-looking, handsome man. But when the same thing happens, when the same thing is done by a girl, then she's not going to be viewed as favorably. The fact remains that the patriarchy, which is entrenched in our society, is not something which can be rooted out so easily and with such rudimentary effort. It is a fact that it is more beneficial to be a boy in India today, but the main basic reason being that I can be born. I won't be killed within the womb. I can be born. And now I will turn. I will turn the quote. Why would I want to be born as a boy? I don't want to be born as a boy. As a boy, if I'm molested, I will have to prove to 100 different people that I have been molested. Because who will believe that a boy can be molested, a boy can't be molested? Have you heard of this very famous actor called Johnny Depp? He's been removed from Warner Bros's contract because of the fact that he was in a case and he was accused, he was not proven guilty, but he was accused by his ex-wife Amber Heard of having resorted to domestic violence against her. Amber Heard, let me point out that Amber Heard also has a contract with Warner Bros. And she is still an Aquaman. She hasn't been removed from her contract. Johnny Depp is the one who has to suffer and his career has to suffer. And a very frivolous point too, girls are much more pampered than boys. You know, if I create mischief in class, I'll be more likely to be made a chicken in the corner of the room. But that won't be done to a girl. A girl will be told very, very in a very polite tone that please don't do that. And of course, there are double standards, because if a man is respectful to women, he is considered meek or less manly. If a Harry Styles wears a dress on the cover of Vogue, he's considered to be radical. And also, I can't cry. I can't cry as a man. And I really need to cry because I'm human. I need to cry. And most importantly, if only I get out of my toxic masculine mindset will I be able to realize the motion itself needs a dialectic tweak. We do not have to think in binaries. There are not only boys and girls. There are lesbians, there are bisexuals, there are gays, there are transgenders, there are queers, and there are multiple other genders who need to be accepted. And we have to stop thinking in these binaries. Thank you so much.
And there are older people watching us, but then you almost just about didn't cross the line, my dear. So that was a save on the boundary. Wonderfully done, wonderfully done. I can see whatever little number of girls I can see, they're laughing their way through. So thank you, thank you, thank you, Arman. Snigdha, let us call you on to speak to us about what your take would be. Can we pull her on the screen, please?
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. I'm Snigdha, and I'm speaking for the turncoat round. So, as a girl myself, I would say that it is great to be a girl in India or anywhere else. Actually, we girls can show our emotions.
Now, let me stop you. In the turncoat round, you first propose the motion, then oppose it. You're opposing it to start with. Start again, Bita, okay, because you deserve a fair chance. Propose and then oppose.
Okay, the motion is that what is better to be a boy or a girl in India at this moment in time? And I would start by proposing the motion. So girls can easily show off their emotions in front of people. They don't have to worry about toxic masculinity. They don't need to worry about making themselves look weak. So we can just go around and smile frequently as much as we want. We can cry out loud, and we would just be seen as being feminine. We're just doing the girly things that we always do. We can. No one's going to judge us for showing our emotions, and we don't have to pretend to look stronger, and we actually are. And we are allowed to be oversensitive and overprotective, and we we are always quite coddled around with our parents that we can't really go out, and our parents always look after us because you can't go out right now because you're a girl. We have the liberty of staying at home doing nothing and just being a housewife and just carry on with our daily lives. We don't have to worry about anything, and our parents would always take care of us and the person that we marry into later on. And we don't have to worry about going out and getting a job, supporting our families. We're not expected to do that, so we can just live our lives and just do nothing all day long. And we just meant to learn some simple skills, life skills, basically, which everyone can learn: cooking, cleaning, doing the dishes, and taking care of the family, which you would expect to, wouldn't take that much of time and wouldn't take as much energy, which it really doesn't. Okay, so now I would start off by saying why it is better to be a boy. Now I'm opposing motion. So, being a boy, as a boy, I could just do anything as I want. I could go out. I wouldn't have any curfews. I wouldn't have to think about what my parents would say if I do this, if I go out with someone, if I go out with this person or hang out with my friends. There would be no limitations or restrictions that I would have to face. And as the previous speakers already mentioned, that I could get away with literally anything, right? I could, I don't have expectations from me of cooking, cleaning. We're always quite, I would be quite coddled as the male child. I would be born in the first place, and I would be seen as the heir of everything. I'd be seen as the perfect child just because I'm a boy. I would have two sisters maybe, or like a family of women, but then I would be seen as the prodigy. I'd be seen as the most important person in the house, as in a working class, as in a family, or even in a normal family. I would be given the last piece of the bread, or I'd be given the last piece of the pizza, because you know what, I'm a boy, so I can get it. No one else needs to have it, and I can wear anything. I don't have any restrictions on what I need to wear. I can literally go around, and I wouldn't have to worry about the male gaze that girls have to so much face. I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to worry about what people would say if I walk out into the road, what people would say in the streets. I wouldn't have to worry about people just looking at me in general, really, because I would blend in. So this is why I think that being a boy is much better in India. Thank you.
Thank you, Snigdha. Thank you, Arman. I hope you enjoyed the turncoat round as much as we enjoyed setting it up for you, right? Akanksha, how does it work? The judges have to send you the sheets now?
Yes, ma'am. They can send it to us, but the results will be announced on the 25th of November.
25th, not today, right? So would we ask the judges to now say a few words?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's pull Shayok on the screen. So Shayok can go back to marking his judge's sheet after he finishes speaking and mail it to you.
Yes, ma'am, sure.
Right.
Sure,
Shayok.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was had a call suddenly come in. Huh? No, so I felt that the quality of the debate was very high in terms of the first stage. Uh, Initially, I was a little apprehensive about the way, the direction the debate was going. But I think that the quality of the arguments made were very high and extremely well thought out examples of given from both sides. Now, only thing I must say is that I will give a word of criticism in the sense that I feel that the speakers were letting their personal ideologies get in the way of their arguments. Now, you are not here to argue on your ideology. No one's here to judge you for what you believe. You should argue the best you can using the logic you can best construct. Now, even if you don't agree to a line of thought, even if you don't agree to an ideology, you can always argue the logic that they give, because both sides of a debate, both sides of a divide, always have some logic to what they say. You need to be able to set aside your own personal feelings on the matter and argue the best argument. That is the main thing of debate. One of my most satisfying victories as a debater ever was when I argued in favor of capitalism in a hall full of left-leaning students who were ready to lynch me outside the hall, not knowing that I was left-leaning in my own ideology. I was arguing a very hard right stance, and everybody wanted to pin me down and rebut me, but they couldn't. That's the entire point. You don't need to argue your personal ideology. It's a debate. You don't need to set aside your own feelings on the matter and argue what's best for the debate. In this debate, I felt that a lot of you were putting your own ideology at a more premium. The thing is, you could have easily countered what one side was saying if you simply set aside your own feelings on the matter and argued simply on logic, on the reasoning. That's where I felt that was a major shortcoming. With regard to the turncoat, and I felt that the turncoat could have been far better. I don't know how familiar the students nowadays are with turncoat debate. It was very popular when I was in school, and I think that's one of the main that's the reason why it didn't work out that well. It could have been far better, but it wasn't bad. Wasn't bad. I'm not saying it was a bad turncoat, but I just felt it could have been far better, because the entire point of the turncoat is to provide a humorous take where you just directly contradict the words you just spoke a few minutes ago and achieve a comedic effect in that regard. I felt that you missed a trick there, but yeah, I guess it's unfamiliarity with the format which perhaps caused it, and perhaps switching off from a serious 3-on-3 debate to a turncoat. Maybe that was the reason for the lag there. But apart from that, I have no complaints with regard to, and I'm very honored that Mahadevi Birla World Academy invited me as a judge. Thank you for having me. It's been a fascinating couple of days, and I really enjoyed every bit of it. Thank you.
You're most welcome, Shayok, and thank you so much for being there. As Shayok says, you need to put aside your personal beliefs and conviction and argue on logic. Yes, you will learn that, especially if you study law and become a lawyer, because lawyers are known to defend murderers, knowing fully well that they're murderers. Lawyers are known to defend criminals, accused and perhaps rightfully accused of all kinds of criminal behavior. So that is the kind of thing, that is the kind of equanimity and the sense of balance that you learn when you study law. So yes, take that home. As he rightly said, a turncoat debate is about contradicting your own very terms. So if you've said, oh my God, it's great to be a boy if you're in India today, and then when you turn coat, you say, oh no, it's superb to be a girl. Whoever said it's great to be a guy? You know, that kind of a thing. Right. Pradeep, can we pull Pradeep in, please?
I hope I have unmuted myself effectively.
You have.
You can hear me now.
Yes, sir.
First of all, the second part, the turncoat debate, I'm so confused about the benefits of my gender that I'm really worried. I wonder whether I should belong to one or the other, or even the third, or any other variation that was mentioned. But I must tell you, it was a reflection perhaps on the nature of my young friends, that the young gentleman spoke with perhaps more humor, but the lady was very serious about being born this way or that. And I liked the logic in both. The two styles in the turncoat debate were completely different, and I'm very glad that we were exposed to both the styles. As I said, Arman was humorous, cheeky, very close to the precipice, whereas Snigdha was serious, more concentrated. So well done, both of you. Now for the main debate itself, which was once again a very specific debate about Satyameva Jayate and contemporary India. And then there were two key words in the middle, which was sounds hollow. You needed to have put in a little more thought into that. Sounding hollow or falling flat, sounding hollow or failing altogether, sounding hollow or not being applicable are completely different dimensions. Sounding hollow is something you may feel if you have a bad earphone. That doesn't mean that the audio is bad, nor does it mean your ear you have to go to an ENT specialist. So I think there was a nuance in that subject, which I'm sorry to say the finalists did not explore. I would have been happy if they had. Nonetheless, Satyameva Jayate, Contemporary India, as a team, both the teams did extremely well. Once again, it was very difficult separating the teams. I think Swati and Shayok will agree with me. Very difficult, great deal of difficulty in separating the teams. There will, of course, be some team which will score a mark more. Another team will lag behind a mark. Please, it is not a reflection of the brilliance of your debating. It's a reflection of the momentary presentation that we heard. I mean, I am more serious than ever before as a judge to tell you that whatever marking has happened today, there are no second runners in this debate. Both teams have done equally brilliantly. And I congratulate both the teams. And once again, both Arman and Snigdha, two different styles of debating. I hope to hear much more of you in the coming years. Thanks, Swati. That's about it.
Thank you, Pradeep, and you're most welcome. So Pradeep believes and rightfully tells you that sounding hollow is different from being hollow. And that is a point that you guys missed. But I'm sure that after this patient fleshing out of this factor, this style of debating, this strategy in debating, you will remember this forever. There was a reason why I incorporated the word sounds. Didn't any one of you six think that the sound word is a strange word in the midst of this motion? This experienced debater picked on it because he's been there a number of times as compared to you. You too will pick on it. Not to worry. Not at all. And yes, what more can I say except for this? That by now, your teamwork is working very well. It's clear that the teams are communicating with each other, the team members. They're trying to back each other up. They're trying to fill in the gaps in each other's arguments. But there's one specific basic debating strategy that I must tell you about the parliamentary style of debating. When you have two sides, when one side proposes and the other side opposes, which is what we've had in the finals, as compared to the semis and the prelims, where each school was proposing and opposing. So when you have the parliamentary style of debating, the opening speaker gets a bit of extra time to do something specific. And what is that? To tell the judges and the audience in short that my stance will be A, this A is my argument, my teammate will come up with B and C, and the last teammate will come up with yet another argument. So you lay down the groundwork for what your team stands for. This is something I'm sure you'll incorporate in the future in your debating. Lastly, What else could I have done that could have made a really, really stronger impact? Perhaps, and this is not exclusive, this is one of the many ways in which it could have been done. You've done it too, yet I'm trying to add to it as a debater. For team proposition, I would have said that what is the value of Satyamev Jayate in this nation when our very own Prime Minister, who wants to take India into the Security Council of the United Nations, thereby making it one of the 5 or select few leading nations of the world, when this very Prime Minister does not, has not, will not address a single press conference. What is he afraid of? Why does he not face the truth and speak to his own people? And what could have team opposition said to that? Yes, our Prime Minister has not done it. But ladies and gentlemen, do not confuse the Prime Minister with the entire people of India. He is merely a leader of the nation. He is not the nation. So we believe that it is the people of our nation who carry forward Satyamev Jayate as it was given to us. Harshita, you can smile. It's okay to smile. As it was given to us by our founding fathers, as we carry it in our constitution, on the emblem, on the national emblem, and as the only force in our country that is allowed to wear Satyamev Jayate, the Ashok Stamp, is the police, the IPS, the Indian Police Service people. You could have fleshed all this out also, but we only gave you an hour and a half. I think the reason you didn't flesh all this out is not because you couldn't. You definitely could have. The reason being, you were under pressure from perhaps your own brilliance. Don't ever succumb to self-pressure. So that was a wonderful debate. Excellent team. Mahadevi Birla World Academy, Akanksha, Harshita, absolutely, you maxed it. The Heritage, Birla Vidyaniketan, wonderful, wonderful, consistent performance. To Anjana and to Ishita, I don't know what else to say. You've got such brilliant deputies to do all the work. It seems you've done none, whereas we know you've done it all. The results will be out on the 25th, as says Akanksha. We too wait to know what the results will be. Please do let us know. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am. So I would like to firstly start by extending our heartfelt gratitude towards our moderator, Swati ma'am, and our judges, Mr. Pradeep Gupta and Mr. Shaikh Chakraborty, for taking out time from their extremely busy schedule for this debate. This debate was honestly a wonderful debate, and I'm not saying it for the sake of it because I seriously did not wish to, ring the bell. That was the case. All the speeches were wonderful, and I would also like to thank Principal Ma'am and Mohta Ma'am for joining us today. Principal Ma'am, please come and speak a few words.
So, good afternoon, everyone. It's been an absolute fabulous 2 days that we have joined over this platform of Shabd. Initially, when the pandemic set in, my first thought was, oh no, what happens to Shabd? But I'm only too happy to kind of experience Shabd online this time. And I'm sure that as the events unfold, we are now nearing conclusion of all the various events, offline or online. I'm sure there'll be so many takeaways that we will keep in store with us for memories that will last a lifetime. All I can say is that Core Committee and Team Shabd did not make a hollow promise when they told me, yes, we can. So that for me is Satyamev Jayate, a promise made truly, a promise made well, a promise seen till the very end. Thank you so much, judges, mentor, and of course, Swati, for being there for endless hours and also for tweaking and making the levels so demanding. The challenge has been immense, but I think the young minds, the young speakers have all proved equal to it. So thank you, everyone, and God bless.
Thank you, ma'am. It wouldn't have been possible without you.
So we take your leave, and the results will be posted on the WhatsApp groups, and I'm sure the judges will also be communicated by our young team over mail. Thank you so much once again for being there with us.
Thank you so much to everyone for joining in.
You're most welcome. Bye-bye.